Welcome to The Explainer. Today, we're diving into the legal framework that's at the heart of every major development project in India, the Rulebook for Environmental Approval. These are huge questions, and the answer really lies in a mandatory process known as environmental clearance. It's all governed by the Environmental Impact Assessment, or EIA, notification of 2006. All right, so here's our game plan. We're going to walk through this regulation from start to finish. We'll look at why it exists, who's in charge, how they classify projects, the step-by-step approval process, and finally, what happens once that clearance is actually in hand. So first things first, what's the big idea behind this whole notification? The key phrase here is prior environmental clearance. It's a legal stop sign. It forces everyone to pause and assess the potential environmental impact of a project before a single brick is laid. The whole point is to weave sustainability into the fabric of development right from the get-go. So who are the people actually granting this all-important clearance? Let's meet the authorities in charge. At the very top, you have the central government, specifically the Ministry of Environment, Forest, and Climate Change. They handle the big stuff, the large-scale projects with the most significant potential environmental effects. And they don't just decide on their own. They act on the recommendations of a body called the Expert Appraisal Committee, or EAC. Now, for projects that have a more localized footprint, the power shifts down to the state level. Each state has its own state-level Environment Impact Assessment Authority. We'll call it the SEIAA. And just like at the central level, they have their own experts, the State Expert Appraisal Committee, or SEAC, to advise them. And if you look at how this state authority, the SEIAA, is put together, it's actually pretty smart. You've got a chairperson who's an expert in policy, another member who's an expert in a specific environmental field, and then a government officer who knows the law inside and out. It's designed to bring together different perspectives, and they all serve a 3-year term for consistency. It's also interesting to note that the law tried to go even more local, down to the district level, for things like minor mineral mining. But, and this is a big but, its implementation is basically on pause. The whole thing is being reviewed by the Supreme Court. It's sub judice. It just goes to show you that these environmental rules are always evolving and being challenged. Okay, so we've met the gatekeepers. Now, how do they figure out which projects land on which desk? Well, it all comes down to categorization, because not all projects are created equal. And it all boils down to this 2-tiered system. You've got Category A for the heavy hitters, the really big projects with significant potential impacts. They always go to the central government and always require a full environmental impact assessment report. Then you have Category B for projects with more localized impacts. They're handled at the state level, and they might not even need an EIA report. But here's where it gets interesting. It's not just about how big a project is. It's also about where it is. Under what the law calls general conditions, a smaller Category B project can get bumped up to the much stricter Category A. This happens automatically if it's too close to a sensitive spot, like a national park, a critically polluted area, or even an international border. That proximity triggers a higher level of review. All right, now we're getting to the heart of it all, the actual step-by-step process of getting one of these environmental clearances. The whole journey starts with a single document, Form 1. You can think of it as the starting pistol for the whole race. It's the official application where the developer lays out all the basic details of the project and some preliminary environmental data. This is what gets the ball rolling. The process itself unfolds in up to 4 distinct sequential stages. Not every project will go through every single stage, but they always follow this order: screening, scoping, public consultation, and then appraisal. Let's break those down. So, stage 1 is screening. Think of it like a filter, and it only applies to those Category B projects. Its whole purpose is to decide if a detailed EIA study is actually needed. Based on this screening, a project gets sorted into one of 2 subcategories: B1, which needs that mandatory EIA report, or B2, which can be appraised without one. Next up is scoping. This is where the expert committee basically draws the map for the environmental study. They create a document called the Terms of Reference, or TOR. This TOR acts as the official guidebook spelling out exactly what needs to be studied for the EIA. And of course, if you're a Category B2 project, you get to skip this step since you don't need an EIA in the first place. Stage 3 is all about the people. Public consultation. It's absolutely vital for making sure local concerns are heard. But the law does carve out some specific exemptions. For example, projects related to national defense or those inside an already approved industrial park, they don't require a public hearing. And finally, we get to the appraisal. This is the grand finale. The expert committee takes everything, the initial application, the final EIR report, the results of the public hearing, and puts it all under the microscope. After this detailed scrutiny, they make their final recommendation to the authority, either grant the clearance or reject it. But getting that piece of paper isn't the end of the road. Not by a long shot. It's more like the beginning, because it comes with some serious long-term responsibilities. For one thing, an environmental clearance isn't forever. It has an expiration date, and that date really depends on the project. For most projects, it's good for 10 years, but for something like a mine, it can last up to 30 years to match the life of the project. And this number 2 is super important. Project developers are legally required to submit 2 half-yearly compliance reports every single year on June 1st and December 1st. This is how they prove to the regulators that they're actually sticking to all the environmental conditions they agreed to. And what happens if a company sells the project? Well, the clearance goes with it. It's transferable. This is crucial because it means that all those environmental promises are tied to the project itself, not the owner. So even if it changes hands, the responsibilities stay put. So, when you step back, the EIA notification of 2006 is this incredibly detailed blueprint for trying to achieve sustainable development. It's designed for balance. But it leaves us with a really big question. Is the balance right? And maybe more importantly, how can a system that was designed back in 2006 effectively manage the environmental challenges we face today and the ones we're going to face tomorrow? Thank you for joining this explainer.